in the final analysis, there was no parliament to refer it to. So a lot of things were distorted. But here we have before our eyes a draft constitution. Anybody who has had an interface with the commission, if you look at the draft, you would see yourself there. In other words, in a sense, we are engaged in promulgating a people's constitution because people have participated in drafting what they think would be a fundamental guide for this republic. Either individually or collectively, those who have been consulted are present in this document. When you look at it, even we who were consulted in Parliament here, and some of us individually had an interface with them, if you look at the draft, you would see that it has taken into consideration what the people have proposed. So that's why it is historic. And here I'm thereby answering a question posed by a journalist. He called me and said, was the 1997 Constitution submitted to a parliament? For him, it was, because he was trying to argue with the honorable member for Serekunda West, who earlier said that it was the first time Constitution is being referred to Parliament. For him, that was wrong. But there was no Parliament in 1997, so the Constitution was not referred to Parliament. So the journalists, please take note that the 1997 Constitution was not referred to Parliament because there was no Parliament. But this one is different. There is Parliament. And that's why we are now here to look at what we have proposed, whether it is here or not. That is why it is historic. Madam Speaker, constitutions are fundamental guides. No country can exist without them. Unless, of course, we are a dictatorship. So that's why when they are referred to Parliament, we need to critically look at it to see whether or not it will serve the purpose for which it was drafted. Whether there is a need to improve upon what has been submitted, or whether there is need to delete what has been drafted, some part of what has been drafted. That is the job that we are engaged in doing. And that's why this section Madam Speaker was quoting is relevant. Some think that we have no authority to do anything like that, but that's what the law provides. That's our fundamental role. I will look at some sections of some clauses of the Constitution. You may not call them sections because it's not yet enacted. When it becomes law, we have sections, but here we have clauses. Some of the clauses I refer to, I will deal with them more in detail when we come to committee stage because they have to do with language, formulation, and some of the things. So, clause 3, which talks about the territory of the Gambia, and this is excellent. The 1997 Constitution does not talk about the Gambia for which it was made. It did not define, it has not defined what the Gambia is. But here, in this draft, Gambia has been defined in terms of territory, in terms of space, in terms of water. It's here in this Constitution, which is beautiful. Because the Constitution is about the Gambia. So that Constitution must define what the Gambia is. If it doesn't, then we have a problem. That was the big limitation in the 1997 Constitution. But in formulating that here, I have some problem, but I'll just pass them. When we come to committee stage, I'll deal with them. And the same thing goes for clause 5. Clause 5 is on the decentralization. Yes. Yes, decentralization. Clause 5(2) says a state organ shall ensure reasonable access to its services in all parts of the Gambia. You know, I have a problem with the phrase reasonable access. And the same thing is for clause 5(3), where local government shall ensure reasonable access to services. I have a problem with the expression reasonable access. But I'll talk about them in detail when we come to committee stage. And then, of course, this is, the Honorable Member for Basse has already talked about it, clause 5(4)(e). We don't talk about local language. This is the colonial expression of our languages. Colonial terminology for our language, local language. What is local language? We have national languages. Each Gambian language is a national language. We don't have local languages. Please stop calling our languages local language. They are not local, they are national. And that is why the Honorable Member is absolutely define what these national languages are. Because the same constitution is saying that we can use these national languages here. So they must be defined. What are these languages? The constitution should tell us what these languages are. Otherwise, what are we going to do? They should be here. It should qualify this language and say the national languages of the Gambia are A, B, C, D, A, F, up to Z. If you please. But that does not exist here. They have had passing references to what they call local languages. This is inadequate. We are moving towards proper liberation of our people. And that cannot be without a linguistic liberation. We are fettered here in this National Assembly. We should remove the chains of our necks. Because we are chained, linguistic chains on our necks. Those we represent don't understand what we say here. That is why this constitution is making it necessary. Although I don't agree with some of the expressions that they are talking about. But it is absolutely necessary that we begin to speak the language of our people we represent. The constitution must make that an obligation. Otherwise, where is our freedom? Where is our identity as a people? Without language, we don't have any identity. The more we speak English, the more we are promoting and developing English to the detriment of our national languages. This is what must stop. And that is why I'm saying, I don't agree with the constitution when they are saying within 5 years. Why 5 years? Why 5 years? Why do we, after 55 years of existence, we are still talking about using our languages, preparing for 5 years again? Why? That is not helpful at all. Enforcement of the Constitution, clause 9(4). Well, here, Well, here also there is a linguistic problem here. I'll leave it until when we come to committee stage. I'll deal with it. Same goes for 13.3, clause 13.3, I'll deal with it. Now, Madam Speaker, we have been grappling for 55 years with a fundamental issue, which is citizenship. Who is a citizen of this country? We have been grappling with that. And it seems we still have not found a solution. Because if you are telling me, if the Constitution is just saying that if you are born in the Gambia, any child born in the Gambia automatically is a Gambian citizen, for me, I have a problem with that. The Gambians like to enjoy international standards. What is internationally valid, Gambians want to enjoy that, but they don't want to reciprocate that. We know that Gambian women leave this territory, they have never been to France, they have never lived in France, they have never lived in the United States, they have never lived in England, but they go there pregnant to have their children in order for them, their children to have that nationality. We know that. This is happening here currently. Why can't we reciprocate that? We are enjoying that, our people are enjoying that, and we don't want to give that possibility to other people to enjoy. People have been living here for 40 years, 50 years, all their lives. Their children are born here and they are not Gambians. This is terrible. They have been paying all sorts of taxes here for decades, and yet the children they have here are not Gambians. And they were born here. Where should they belong? To belong where they were not born? That's not correct. A child can acquire the nationality of wherever he or she is born. That's what is international standard. Even if a child is born in an aeroplane over the Gambia, airspace, automatically that child is a Gambian. Should be a Gambian. If a guy is born in a ship in Gambian waters, wherever that child is from, if he or she wants to be a Gambian, he should be given that possibility to be a Gambian. That should be the law. Anything else short of that, for me, is not adequate. So we should stop grappling with this. We should not be advocating, because we are already enjoying this from other countries. So let us reciprocate. People have been living all their lives here, and their children are still non-Gambians. That is not correct. We should not allow people to be stateless. That's a crime against humanity. Clause 19. C. Now, clause 19.3c is saying the age of the person becomes known and reveals that the person was older than 8 years when found in the Gambia. So, you know, it is about a child who is found and is supposedly about 8 years, is granted Gambian citizenship. But if later is discovered that he or she is more than 8 years, it's negated. That's exactly what I was talking about. We are talking about a child who is found and whose parents you probably don't know, and then we say if he is 8 years. Supposing it's 6 years, supposing it's 5 years, supposing it's even 3 years, or even 6 months. Because we have all that in this country. So what do? If it's less than even 8 years, let's say 6 months, or even few weeks, so such a child will be stateless. Is that what it means? We are talking about 8 years, but there are children who are dumped, whose parents are not known at birth. So what do you do with such children? Are they Gambians or are not Gambians? Because we are now talking about days, not even weeks. I think there is a need for us to look at that more seriously. And clause 26. This is very interesting. These are some of the innovations in our Constitution. Clause 26 is talking about a gift to a public officer on a public or official occasion or on account of the office he or she holds is a gift or donation to the state or the institution he or she represents and shall be delivered to the state through the Anti-Corruption Commission unless the gift is otherwise exempted, which conditionally or unconditionally by an act of the National Assembly. Well, this is a law in some countries, and I know in a particular country, a president was imprisoned because of such a thing.
Honorable, sorry. I stand to be corrected, but if you're reading from the section dealing with gifts, your mic, otherwise you won't hear. Yes, thank you. Dealing with gifts, yeah. It's something that came up, but don't you think that it deals with, to a certain extent, details? If we are reading it, can it be broadened to cover the principle behind it? And the merits or demerits of that particular clause. Thank you.
26 is about financial probity of public officers. That's the head. I think the whole principle of this is that public officers, whatever they are giving in their official capacity, should not belong to them, should belong to the office or the state they represent. That's the whole principle is simply that. I'm saying that this is a law in some other countries, and I know somebody who was imprisoned for taking such a thing, a gift given to him, instead of giving it to the state, because it was given to him as a president. And I know also somebody was given, a president was given a vehicle and took it. But then the problem is, I think this is a good provision in our Constitution, that when things are given to us, like if I go to somewhere and certain things are done for me, they are not done to me as Sedia. They are done to me as Sedia representing people. And that which is given to me in that capacity belongs to the people I represent. That means it should go back to the state. I agree with the principle. But the enforcement is the problem. Like, I will come to that. The enforcement is going to be the problem. Limitations of fundamental rights and freedoms, clause 36. Well, here, I'm glad that the National Assembly is involved. Otherwise, I would say that the National Assembly should be involved, because how do we control the excesses of an autocrat? But it is here, the National Assembly has to make a law to that effect. So it's fine. Now, clause 57, which is very important in the sense that it is in the 1997 Constitution, but 1997 Constitution is how many years old now? 20-something years old. And the provision has not been implemented. So it's not enough for us to have things in our laws only for them to die there without being implemented. That's the right to education. Clause 57 is saying, like the 1997 Constitution, all persons have the right to equal educational opportunities and facilities, and with full realization, that's right. Basic education in the 1970 is supposed to be free but compulsory. It was neither free nor was it compulsory for the years that we have been having this constitution. So I only hope that we will not have this again in this draft when it becomes a constitution, only to be like the 1997 Constitution. It is here because it is meant to help develop. It is meant to serve the people. But if it is not applied, then it will not serve the purpose for which it is drafted here. So that's my problem. This is in the 1997 Constitution, but it was never applied. Because education has never been free here. No one will convince me that we have had basic education free here. I've been paying school fees for people in basic education. So nobody can convince me that it was free. It has never been free. But the law is said, I raised it in 1997, and what the minister answered was, we don't have the means. I said, but what are you doing? We don't have the means. But the law is saying that it is mandatory for children of this country at that level to have education free, but compulsory. So there is no question that the resources are supposed to be there, they are there. That's why the law is saying that it should be free. And that's why the other ones are not compulsory, they are not free. Progressively we are moving towards making them free, but they are not free, but the basic education should be free. And here also it is indicated. So the problem is, it is not enough for us to make laws, but we must have the mechanism of implementing those laws to make them meaningful. If you don't do that, they are useless. So that's the problem here with this clause 57, which is almost a repeat of 1997 Constitution section on this. Now, let me Clause 49, freedom of religion and conscience. Now, 49.3, for me, is the formulation is weak, and it is not supposed to be weak, because what it's saying is, 49.3 is a person may, the word may is what I'm underlining. A person may be denied access to any institution A person may not be denied access to any institution, employment or facility, or enjoyment of any right because of the person's belief or religion. The word may should be replaced with shall. For me, this is fundamental.
Honorable, that's why I appear to tend to have an issue. I am not agreeing or disagreeing with your suggestion, but I am saying that it appears as if that is going into the details. Don't you think that to change that word from may to shall should wait for if we get to the consideration stage? Yes, that's my point. Thank you.
57E, 57(1)E. He's saying tertiary and higher education shall be made equally accessible to all on the basis of capacity basis of capacity by every appropriate means, and in particular by the progressive introduced, like I was saying. But what is of concern to me here is D, clause 57D, 1D, 2D rather. It's a function